All right, welcome to Todd Sylvester Inspires BeliefCast. This is episode 1, and I'm so excited to be here today. I've got an amazing guest that we'll introduce here in just a minute. I put this together because I'm passionate about belief systems, because belief dictates our behavior. You can focus on behavior and try to change behavior, but nothing will ever happen unless you change the belief. So this is going to be the theme of this podcast throughout its history, to be honest. See, I blew that one. But hey, I don't care. This is all good. But we're going to talk about how belief how it shapes our lives and it shapes our destiny. And I've got an amazing person with us here today. His name's Paul Madsen. What's up?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
I've known Paul for a few years now, and he is probably one of the most inspiring men that I've ever met. This guy has quite the story, which we're going to hear some of it here in just a minute. He's inspired me in many ways. He's inspired hundreds and thousands of others over the last several years because of how he's changed his life. And I'm just excited to have him on here today. So welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. It's
So
awesome.
yeah, how you doing?
Good. How are you? It's good to see you.
What have you been up to today already? I know it's early.
Yep. Well, I just start off my day with my normal routine principles that luckily, a lot of those I got from you for being able to share that is, wake up, set my intent as soon as I step into consciousness, open my eyes, put one foot down, and get ready for the day, make up my bed as soon as I get out of it, and
nice,
enjoy a nice car ride up here.
Nice.
And
very cool.
get to see
well, I'm excited to have you on here because I want people to get to know you. Because you do have quite the story. You've been through a lot, but you've also done a lot of amazing things, especially over the last couple of years. And so, but I want to first maybe just kind of have you tell us a little bit about you,
Sure.
maybe kind of where you grew up, a little bit about your family, and,
Yeah.
Just a little bit of that.
Sure. Yeah, I was born and raised in Kearns, Utah here. So I'm the youngest of 5 kids. I'm the only one that was born here in Utah. So I was born and raised out there. Grew up skateboarding, having fun, I guess, like a normal kid. 9 years old, moved to Taylorsville. That's where T-ville. That's where I spent the most of my time. Yeah, I went to high school through there. Went to Benyon Junior High.
Okay. Right on.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you like to do when you were growing up?
Well, like I was saying, really young age, I started skateboarding, just, hanging out with friends, hanging out with my brother. I was into basketball, played junior jazz, was undefeated junior jazz team for 3 years in a row.
Wow, there it is, guys, undefeated.
Yeah, so, yeah, I mean, that's obviously just a small nutshell of how it was. I spent a lot of time with my siblings.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
2 brothers and 2 sisters.
And where do you fall in line? Are you the
youngest?
The youngest.
I'm the baby.
Right on, the baby. The baby's showing how it's done nowadays.
Yep, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things you love to do? What are some of your hobbies, some of your likes, some of the things you do
today
to take up your time? Yeah.
Well, so like I was saying, I played basketball growing up. I did skateboarding, snowboarding, and that was about in the beginning or before I got into some trouble and let all those passions, hobbies go to the wayside, unfortunately.
Which we'll get into in a minute.
Yeah, I'm sure. So today I still enjoy playing basketball, like playing volleyball, softball, as far as sports go. But my number one favorite hobby is cars. Any and everything to do with cars.
So it's not just cars. It's called drifting, right?
Yes,
I don't know too much about it. Tell us about what is drifting.
Yeah.
And why do you love it so much?
I just absolutely love it. I got into it probably about 8 years ago. One of my good friends, Walter, kind of convinced me to actually go and drive and do it at Rocky Mountain Raceway, and it was like nothing else.
So what is it though? Like, what does drifting mean?
Sliding car sideways as fast as you can with as much style and line and speed as you can.
I noticed when you leave the parking lot here, you're usually drifting. I was wondering what that was.
That's right. Hey, I saw you try it once too. Yeah,
cool.
I lived in Tokyo when I was 16 for a couple months with my sister Emily.
Okay.
And so it's kind of funny. People give me some crap sometimes because it's like the movie Tokyo Drift, but I was doing that like 10 years before that came out.
Really?
So I got a good idea and introduction to that whole Tokyo car scene.
Really? Is it pretty big over there?
The scene. Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's like their number one thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So luckily I carried that over here with me, and yeah, I've met some, people I would have never crossed paths with, some good friends, and it's an awesome hobby, and it's not a team sport, and you can go do it your own self, and you rely on your own self, and it's the adrenaline, fun, and skill is like no other.
You do that almost every weekend, it seems like. Is that fair to say? Or?
I try to, but yeah, it's tough. It takes a lot of time and money and maintenance and stuff breaks. And
I bet. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
I wish. I love it. Yeah.
That's really cool. Is there someone in the car with you when you're drifting, or is it usually just an individual kind of thing?
Generally it's just alone.
Okay.
Yeah, you can do ride-alongs. I've learned a lot from sitting in the passenger seat with some other people and friends. And
is it pretty scary at times?
Yeah, it can be. That's for sure. Yeah,
have you wrecked before where you're drifting and the car rolls over or something?
I haven't, no. I've seen a couple guys go into the wall, though. So.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I obviously know you really well, and I know one of your, someone that you really look up to, growing up has been Tupac.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tupac Shakur, right?
Absolutely.
I don't even know if I said that correctly,
yeah.
But and I know you're really passionate about, because I think, when I first met you, I was giving you a hard time about that, if you remember.
Oh yeah.
But you've done a lot of studying of what he believed and what he kind of truly was behind the scenes.
For sure.
So tell me a little bit about why you admire this person and why,
Yeah. Well, just to kind of go back and touch back on background growing up. Again, I just kind of gave you a nutshell story, but I mean, I've been through a whole lot, as you were, saying in the introduction. But I was introduced to it pretty young. I'd say about 12, 13 is when I started getting into it. Tupac and hip hop, like way heavier than ever before. And it was just his message and music and of what he was saying that really it spoke to me. Like it's at times it can even be hard to explain of just how emotional and how much passion I feel for it. I mean, I got in a lot of trouble as an adolescent and teen growing up, and I can honestly look back, and there were songs that I had memorized that I would just like repeat lines of that helped me get through times and things.
Right.
And just what he stood for, and I always felt like it was misrepresented. I mean, I've sat and had these conversations, I don't want to call it an argument, but with my dad, of just trying to explain, what his message is to the public and people, and that it's misconstrued as this, thug gangster and that, when really he's trying to, he's talking about changing the world and equality and peace and people having rights and standing up for what you believe in, and no matter how hard things get, that there's always going to be a brighter day and to push through it. And there was a lot of times where that was maybe the only thing, if one of few, that was a positive message that, like I said, it carried me through a lot of things.
Yeah, he's a poet, isn't he?
Absolutely.
One of my, and I'm going to butcher this, but one of my favorite quotes by Tupac is "the rose that grew from concrete."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And how it persevered and reached towards the sun.
Right.
And I like the imagery of that. Is imagine seeing a rose actually growing in the middle of a sidewalk.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't go, oh, look at its damaged petals. We would praise it and say, look at the tenacity it had to get to the sun.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite quotes by that guy.
Yeah.
I actually share a lot of times with my clients and this and that, but so I've learned to appreciate him a little bit more since knowing you, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. It's funny to run into you and see you. We had our barbecue here at Wasatch, and that's the first thing of you're like, dude, I saw this documentary, and I go and I tell some of our coworkers and friends, and they're like, what, Todd? And so it's cool because I can. One of the many reasons why I have the utmost respect for you is that, you're open to it and to see those bright points and actually the truth of what he stood for. And you can see, like, the example, rose that grew from concrete is...
Yeah. That's you, dude. And that's truly you. And that's why I bring this up. I mean, again, for those of you who don't know Paul, you're going to get to know him here a little bit more. But he truly is a rose that grew from concrete. Like it almost seems impossible from where he was to where he is now, a lot of people would think it's impossible. I don't, because my belief is that changing or waking up to who we really are is pretty simple.
Yeah, if you
Right?
let it be, absolutely.
It's simple, and that's another belief that we'll talk about here in a minute. But let's so why don't we let's kind of segue into kind of your past a little bit.
Okay.
Obviously, you've struggled with some addictions and things like that, and maybe kind of tell me when that kind of started, and a little bit about that, and kind of go through some of that history of your trials and tribulations with that.
Yeah. In a nutshell, or else we'd be here for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
12 years old, sneaking my friend's dad's Bacardi. We're in 6th grade, and, just trying that out here and there. Some alcohol is what that is. Smoking a little bit of weed here and there. And it lasted about a year and a half or so. Luckily, when I was 14 years old, I kind of found a whole new love for punk rock music. I get into like the hardcore punk rock, right. Straight edge, vegan kind of lifestyle, and that lasted about a year. And I say that to maybe tie in a little bit later, but
sure, yeah.
And then so it was about close to 15 that I really started getting into weed and drinking, and it was shortly thereafter that I was selling weed, and I would drink, high school parties, weekends. That was a big part of my irrational and flawed belief, is that I had this identity that I was.
Were you pretty open with it, like meaning, or did you have to like hide it really well, like obviously parents don't want their kids doing that kind of stuff, sure. Typically.
Oh right? Yeah.
So I mean, was this something like this hidden life that you were trying to keep underground?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that some ambivalence was prevalent there for sure.
Yeah.
I always kind of struggled back and forth with that idea that I'm a good person, I'm a good guy or good kid, but yet I'm out doing all these things. So I mean, it was pretty blatantly obvious as to what I was doing, but yeah, at the same time I tried to keep the peace at home and kind of play it off and keep it cool. Yeah. But that only lasted so long, of course. And I mean, I was 16 years old, and I remember my dad walked in my room, and I had like a little over $2,000, and I was sitting there counting it out, and he just looked at me, like, what in the world is...
How old were you when
16.
You had $2,000 in cash.
Yeah, my friend gave me that to kind of like, get us started, if you will.
Really?
And yeah.
You probably felt like a millionaire.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money for
I thought
for someone that age.
Was on the top of the world. And yeah, I mean, it was some denial, I'm sure, and just being naive of,
sure.
I just made up some phony story of why I had it, and he just closed the door and walked away. So I think...
So you knew he was disappointed.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. And I think that on the back half of that, it just fueled the idea of like, naive on my part too.
Right,
well, they don't really, I got away with it, but I mean, looking back, how could you? So
sure.
Yeah, I mean, that was just the beginning of it. I mean, I was joking with you, we could go on for years because of just the depth and detail, but just again, that was kind of my identity. I was okay with that. That's who I wanted to be. That's who I was in a sense, and of course I wasn't happy doing that at all, but I was in such a dark place. I was okay with being that guy, and that's how I was going to go out. And that just spiraled into, just to skip forward, I'd say the depth of where it turned was taking Oxycontin back in the day, and that just got to be too much. And
how old were you when you started taking Oxycontin?
About 23,
okay.
I want to say.
Okay.
So
up to that point, you were mainly just kind of drinking, smoking some pot,
smoking
like
weed. Yeah, through high school, I got arrested several times throughout the course of all this story, and I was on probation, and so I decided to do all the rave drugs back then. This was 2000, 2001. Right. So I was selling those kind of drugs, club drugs, and I was doing that. So that was my experience with that stuff. Didn't really ever go back to it after high school, but went on and in my research career there, and like I said, I started doing heroin, and that was really the depth of the whole new low.
It's interesting how it seems like 100% of the time Oxycontin always leads to heroin.
Yeah, as you know, in this field and working with people, and that's just that's the story.
Were you just smoking it or slamming it or both or?
Both. Then I just started out smoking it, and I ended up being a injection IV user, doing heroin, cocaine, and like I said, that was just all new.
I mean, obviously at this point you're probably feeling that. Did you know you were in trouble? Were you like, oh, this is still no big deal, or did you realize, man, I am in a bad place right now?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going to the word naive. Is just kind of, I mean, obviously I knew what I was doing. It was a bad place, but I remember the first time trying to quit. It was my brother had been in Iraq, and he got a leave to come home around Thanksgiving, right. Yes, around into Thanksgiving. But I tried to quit, and I was just smoking heroin at that time, and I tried to quit, and to be present and to be there when he came back, and it was that's when it slapped me in the face of what was going on.
Because when you're quitting and trying to get off heroin, you get really, really sick.
Oh yeah.
Which keeps you probably going back because you don't want to be sick, right?
Absolutely. So that's what I mean. That was a slap in the face. I tried to quit, and I don't know, maybe 24 hours if that, where it was just, skin crawling, heebie-jeebies, feeling like I was going to puke, and just, it's the worst thing you can imagine. And so you named it. I just went right back to it, and that just stayed in that vicious.
So how long did you do heroin for?
It was a couple of years. Okay. So I was 23, I believe, about when I started that, and then first time I ever quit, like I made a valiant effort at it, was about 25, 26.
Okay. Now let's jump ahead just a little bit. So when I first met you, you're obviously at this point you're wanting help, and you have tried to get help several other times.
Yeah.
And here I am meeting you for the first time, and if it's okay if I say this,
anything you want.
You're on enough methadone to kill a horse at this moment.
One or two
tell
horses.
us how. So tell me how methadone came into the picture for you.
Yeah. So again, I mean, I say the ambivalence and kind of going back and forth of having this idea of like, I've always known and felt that I'm a good person. I know that, but yet my actions and everything I did spoke volumes to otherwise.
So you had a lot of cognitive dissonance.
Absolutely.
I'm this person, but my actions don't. So you had a lot of separation there.
100%. Yeah. Okay. And within that separation of the two lies the turmoil in that.
Yeah,
so
the misery.
Yeah. But like I said, I mean, I had a lot of struggles. I had quit on my own at one point, cold turkey off, syringe heroin, and it lasted me about 20 months. That's why I was kind of throwing out the punk rock, vegan, straight edge stuff. I did it cold turkey off of relying on that and changing my lifestyle to that. But once again, that wasn't enough, and I went back to using.
So real quick, so you became, is it a straight edger? Is that what they called it back then?
Yeah. Yeah.
We got a straight edger here, guys.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Yeah.
So talk about it. What is a straight edger? Like, and why was that something that you appealed to, I guess, at the time?
So just going back, like I said, 7th grade, junior high, I had some friends that were older than me, high school kids, that they were doing it, and it was, skateboarding around. I thought it was cool. They were older, they were cool guys. So you don't smoke, you don't drink, you don't have premarital sex. So it's a poison-free
And they're typically
lifestyle.
vegans, correct?
In Salt Lake.
Not all of them, but
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So the idea is just, purification.
So when did you kind of join, I guess, that group? How old were you?
Well, like I said, like 14, I kind of did, but it wasn't the real kind of idea of it.
So you were breaking the rules by using, correct?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Did they know? So did you have to hide it from them?
Yeah, that was one of the most.
When they beat you up for that?
I guess. Jeez.
Let's take Paul out back.
Take him out back.
He's been smoking again.
Yeah. But to be dead serious, yeah, I mean, it was something that I held in my heart to the utmost standards, because it was something that I really looked up to, and it was so strong for me that, like I said, to quit cold turkey of slam and heroin, that it lasted. Gotcha. But yeah, that was one of the most guiltiest times in my life. Was I have big black X's tattooed on top of my feet, and here I was relapsing and injecting heroin around that area. Because
why tattoos with X's on your feet? What does that
That's just
represent?
the symbol of it, because it started in the 80s where kids would go into the bars, and if you were underage, they'd put a black X on your hand. So
Interesting.
that's just the symbol of it. So that was,
Interesting.
when you talk about rock bottoms, that was one of them for me,
Gotcha.
is having that and doing that. But
Wow. Man, we could spend a whole episode on that. That'd be cool to know more about
yeah,
that part of your life.
yeah, yeah. And just
Right.
to go back
Yeah,
to
sorry.
to finish your question
Yeah.
is, so I had those clean stints, came back, sorry, and then I had some friends that were, I can say friends, they were using buddies that they were going to the methadone clinic, and I had no idea what it was, and so I went and I was going there, and I think subconsciously or whatnot that I had the intent to quit, but yet I was still using, and these guys were just using it on top of heroin, and so that's what I was doing. I manipulated and lied and cheated that clinic that I was going to, the Discovery House, till the point where I got, like you're saying, such a high dose.
That's what addicts become really good at, is they manipulate really well.
Oh, yeah.
That becomes your superpower.
Yeah.
And then you can lie with the best of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I did what I had to do to get
whatever
what
it took.
I wanted, yeah.
Isn't it fascinating? Like, and if you just shift that energy into something positive, how that discipline, you were actually really disciplined in that.
Oh, yeah.
Change that discipline into something positive, and look what happens, right?
Yeah.
And we're going to get into that in just a
second.
second.
We are. Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. So, and I know we're jumping ahead a little bit here, but so tell me, let's get a little bit into, let's talk about belief systems, because again, this is kind of what the theme of this podcast is about beliefs.
Yeah.
Growing up, obviously, now that you can look back, and it's easy to look back and go, oh, these are the beliefs that held me back, or that caused me to, be in my own prison.
Yeah.
Talk about some of those beliefs that you held on to that were causing you, to be stuck.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as you said, to look back and to see it like it was, and even to look at the change side, is I was a victim, to put it plain and simple, and by that I mean I had opportunities to change and choice that was there and available, but I acted as if there wasn't. And
victim meaning you were blaming circumstances and people for your problems.
Everything.
Okay.
So I blamed my parents a lot for it. I blamed schools, teachers, the world in itself. That all these flaws in the way that things were and set up, that nothing went my way, and this is just how it was, and so that's kind of the the screw this attitude. I'm going to go off and do all these things.
And I know you and I are on the same page of this, and you so more now, but it's, really victim stance is the worst disease on the planet.
Oh, absolutely.
Because that is what keeps us stuck in our behavior. And when we blame and point fingers, nothing changes, right?
Yeah, and I stayed in that place for years and years and years. And it's that, you talk about, it's that story of growing up that I still went back and reinforced to as a 23, 24, 25-year-old guy. Yeah. And even after that, that's the insanity of it. And, how strong it can be in the negative sense. Yeah. That I was blaming things from my youth as an adult.
So let's talk about the belief behind your victim stance.
Okay.
So what, I get that you were blaming others and circumstances and everything else, but what's the belief you had about you that you were trying to, I guess, maybe even, suppress or mask or hide from by using?
To look back on that, I would say it's kind of the irony of it is I had 1,000,001 friends and all types of groups of friends and social groups, but yet it was like I didn't fit in. More so like the idea I wasn't good enough. Like, I had these groups of friends, but I was they were all so successful or so happy, and God, why didn't I have that? And what's wrong with me? And
gotcha.
And maybe that, I think in the long run was a good thing to an advantage, but maybe why I had all these groups of, we kind of joke, say it's like the chameleon kind of thing of just going and fitting in wherever but
you can.
not knowing who my own true self was. And I think in a way trying to figure all that out of being lost and then the blame and stuck. And
well, you mentioned, you said probably the number one limiting belief that I've found in my 25 years experience is I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
If you think about it, so again, listeners, we talk about how belief dictates behavior. So here's Paul talking about he had this belief that he wasn't good enough. And so that dictated his behavior. He tried to fit into all these different types of crowds. He still didn't, in his mind, feel like he even fit in there, and so on and so forth. Obviously, using drugs and drinking, all that started maybe because you just wanted to try it out, but it turned into kind of masking or self-medicating from that belief. Is that fair to say?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that was, like I said, that identity, if you will, is, well, all these things didn't work and didn't fit in, and I was raised in the LDS church, and I kind of had a falling out with that, and so that didn't work. I wasn't good enough there, so that was easy to blame, and go on to the next thing, and this didn't work, and so I'm gonna blame this, and so I just stayed stuck with that, and that was that.
So we're gonna obviously jump ahead here again. So what is your belief around that now? I mean, how have you changed that belief, and how is that belief being changed blessed your life now?
Yeah. Well, to look back and to just see, all these, that it had nothing to do with, I just named like the church or my parents or the friends or the teachers, or it had nothing to do with any of those things. Right. That it was me, and it was always me. And it's like the gift and the curse, because once you realize that, the curse is, oh my gosh, well, geez, it's just me. How am I ever going to get out of this? But the gift is that it's all you, and it's up to you, and that you're in charge.
Dude, I love that.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that gives me chills, because you're 100% responsible for you.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And you're right. That can be kind of scary in the beginning, but it's also very liberating.
It is the most freeing thing.
You get to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to share, if you, I don't know if you remember this.
Yeah.
Hopefully you do. I think you will once I bring this up. So I'll never forget, Paul was a former client of mine, and we were sitting in doing a session, and you were still kind of struggling. You had made some progress, but you were still kind of battling some things, and I thought, well, I'm going to mess with you for a little bit, because you're a vegan, which means you don't eat meat or dairy or things like that, right?
Yeah.
And you're very dedicated to that. I mean, you're very passionate about that. And so I challenged you on that in a session. I said, hey, let's go to lunch today, and I'll buy you a burger.
Okay, yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah.
And I go, would you want to go? And you remember what you said?
No, heck no.
No. And I go, well, no, just, it's on me. Just have a burger. It's the best burger in town. We're going to go to this place. And you kept going, no, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm going to do that.
There's no way.
Yeah. And then I says, why can't you have that same dedication and mentality towards being clean and using? Yeah. And it was almost like this light bulb turned on.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Oh, I'll never forget that. I joked around that today with some of our clients and coworkers. I remember you came up and you're like, I got your game changer. I was like, what? What are you talking about? Like, what is this? And yeah, I mean, that clicked right there, because that is something that I decided 20 years ago at the age of 14. I'm not ever going to do this or eat this. But yet I would sacrifice my own self for these other things. But yeah, I stuck to it. Stuck to it to this day.
But it goes to show how powerful a decision truly is. You had made that inner decision to never eat meat from that point forward, and you haven't. Yeah. And you have stuck to it. And the point is, the reason why I brought that up to you is to make you realize you are in charge. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I see this all the time.
That clicked. Like that hit me like a ton of bricks.
One of the things I do right now with my clients, I'll ask them, do you rob banks? And they look at me like, no. And I'm like, well, why not? And they're like, because I don't want to do that. And I go, well, okay. As soon as you have that same mindset with drugs and alcohol, it would be great if I asked you, do you drink or do drugs? No, why? Because I don't want to. Yeah. It's not even a part of your DNA. Right. And I'll tell you, for you listeners, again, to watch Paul, this, from my perspective, as having you as one of my clients, but to see that shift in your thinking, in your belief system, where you went, oh wow, I'm in charge, and I'm going to do it. Yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong. That belief went from I'm not good enough to there's nothing wrong with me.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was a 30-year-old guy sitting on the couch in here with you, holding on to these same old, fairy tales, as you call it, of, man, there's all these things wrong with me, and,
Yeah.
look back, it's probably, hey, well, this, and I'm clueless to it, and let me tell you, Todd, what's wrong with me, and what's happened to me, and what got me here, and it wasn't, I'm sure, telling you, it didn't have anything to do with me. It was everyone else's problem and fault, and why I was here, and yeah, like just that example of that, of, well, holy cow, yeah, I have made these choices and these decisions of these things my whole entire life, and here I was just applying and adapting them in the wrong places, and I mean, it's been the greatest, gift in the entire world.
It's beautiful.
I say you gave it to me, but in that same light that I had to pick it up and to choose, and here I am today.
I kind of guided you and showed you, but it was you that had to do it.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Absolutely.
One of the things, I talk about a lot is the most delightful surprise in life is to suddenly recognize there's nothing wrong with you. And, you listeners, when I saw Paul finally, that light turn on, like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with me. Why am I self-destructing over here? And to see that was, I mean, it gives me goosebumps to even think about it right now, dude. It was amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Love it.
And it seems like from that, correct me if I'm wrong, from that point forward, even while you were still in treatment, so to speak, you were done.
Oh, yeah.
It was game over.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what I want
back.
you to do now, let's talk about how that new belief that nothing's wrong with you, that you're in charge 100%, choice is the ultimate power.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tell me what that knowledge and that belief system now has done for you. What are you doing with that now? Yeah. Tell the listeners what you're doing now.
All right.
Which is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, luckily is just absolutely blessed to cross paths with you and to be here at Wasatch Recovery. And like I said, it was, I couldn't name the day or whatnot, but it was some odd halfway through of an 80-day stay at Wasatch Recovery that I knew I was done and that this was it. And here's the opportunity of a lifetime. And there was no change in that, no faltering it. And it's not like I was pushed into that. It like you said, it was just when it clicked. It was just liberating. Yeah. And here I was, like almost like I'd woken up to 30 years later in life of, wow, here I am, and this is it. And and that, it led me to just from being this guy, like I said, of just kind of working jobs I wasn't happy with, and just kind of floating along, of cruising along through life of. Shortly after leaving treatment is where I met you, and I worked 2 jobs, and one of them was Wasatch Recovery. I started as a line staff here, and I worked at eBay. I worked for a couple different tattoo studios, 27 Tattoo, Zen Tattoo. I worked for United Healthcare, but the entire time I stayed working at Wasatch Recovery on weekends and picking up kind of shifts here and there, which... long story short, snowballed into here's where I am today of having the blessing opportunity to be a recovery coach at our outpatient program. Yeah. So, again, just the idea of sitting on the couch here with the tables turned of telling you all the fairy tale stories of what was wrong with me and all these things that just these flawed beliefs. And once I got that and it clicked, and that freedom, the liberating feeling of like you're saying, and it was just the world was my oyster to what can I do and what's out there. And from being a client here to working my way up to one of our clinical staff recovery coaches and, the people I've met along the way, the stories I've seen and heard. And I just had a guy text me last night who got a 2-year coin from his recovery, and just really cool. It's awesome to just be a part of that.
Well, and so listeners, just so you understand, Paul probably meets with anywhere between 20 and 30 people a week, and he is basically giving back now. That's the beauty of this. You have to give it away. So Paul learned these amazing beliefs, the truth really, he woke up to it, and now he's giving it back. And now he sits down and he helps 20 to 30 people every single week, week after week after week. And he's basically helping these other people wake up to what he woke up to. That's the beauty of it. You're giving it back.
Absolutely.
One of my favorite things I learned this from Neil Donald Walsh. He says, if you want to be, give it away. So if you want to be inspiring, go give away inspiration. And that's what you do every day. I mean, not only just every day, like several times throughout the day, you are inspiring others to be better. And I mean, don't you just pinch yourself, dude?
Yeah, I mean, I'll show you the hair standing up on my arm when you say that, because I mean, it's the best thing that there ever is, and again, some of these principles that I had learned from you, is that you cannot own something until you truly own something, until you give it away.
Until you give it away.
And so here it is, and my goal and is to help those other people just as I was, on the opposite side of this with you.
Inspiring, dude. Inspiring, man. Paul is amazing, guys.
I wish you guys can do this. I wish anyone that's out there listening is.
This is good stuff, man. So if you could go back to your 12-year-old self, what would you tell yourself? If you could go back right now and give your 12-year-old some advice, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. If I could pick one thing and one thing only, it would be, you said it, is you're okay. There's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. I mean, that is the most simplest, easiest phrase that in the world. But I mean, the depth that goes into is what's incredible. And why I would pick that is, again, it's those stories, and because there was nothing wrong with me ever. It was that story that was up here. That was it, which drive, define, dictate my behaviors, my choices, my actions that, again, were quite damaging for, number of years. And I mean, and I'd say this to my own self, and I'm telling this to you guys out there listening, is that no matter how hard it gets, that you'll get through it. Yeah. And just dare to go through it, and have some discipline and just have faith and know that you're okay. Yeah. You can get through this. Beautiful. And you will. It's inevitable.
So kids, hopefully you heard what he just said. That is seriously the most powerful truth you guys can embrace. This podcast is for everyone, but we're really going to gear it towards kids. And so what a beautiful thing you're doing, Paul, and I'm really impressed with you.
Appreciate it.
So to wrap this up, I asked you to kind of come up with a challenge for the listeners. If you don't mind, maybe give them a challenge, something that you would like to see them do that would help benefit their lives, something maybe that you're doing already every day that you could give to them and challenge them to do, and then we'll wrap this up.
Okay. Yeah. Let's see. As I mentioned earlier, what's been crucial to me is that morning routine. And there's a few things that come with that. The first thing, like I was saying, is just the moment that you step into consciousness. The moment you open your eyes and there's that waking mind, right there to just make a decision.
So what?
Who are you?
So what
today?
Did you do this
What's
morning?
Your day gonna be?
So how did you do that this morning? I'm just curious.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
The practice of that is when you say open your eyes, because the first thing is, oh, I'm tired, or oh, is this, and maybe your alarm's going off, and here's the snooze, or here's to dismiss and get up and get rolling, and that's the practice of this. Is it sounds simple, and here's maybe where the challenges may come, but I like to change and switch mine up, but my intention for today is that I can be, that I am inspiring, and that I can be full of compassion and kindness.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful. I'm a huge believer of that. Setting your intent the moment you wake up into consciousness. You set the intent, and it kind of sets the tone for the day. So there you go, listeners. The challenge is to set your intent consciously every morning in a powerful way.
Yeah.
Well, hey, we could go on for days. Dude. I mean, seriously, I could have this guy on every single week. But Paul, you're a friend. You're inspiring. You make me want to be better. I honestly feel that way. I'm so impressed on how you carry yourself these days. You would never know that this dude was a heroin addict, drug dealer, punk rock, all that stuff. One of the nicest guys I've ever met, by far. And I'm honored to call you my friend. So thank you for being on episode 1 of Todd Sylvester Inspires BeliefCast.
Thank you.
Your beliefs are amazing, dude. And it's amazing how those beliefs dictate the way you carry yourself today. So thank you for being on the show today.
I absolutely appreciate it. I can't tell you how grateful I am for you and what you do for everyone else out here, and what you've taught me and set out at my feet to pick up and do. And I just echo your statement of words that you're the greatest guy I know and best friend in the whole world that I could ever ask for. So I appreciate it. Love you. You're the man. All right.